Oh.
Carla, can you tell me your name?
My name is Carla Wilby.
Wilby?
Yep.
No E?
No.
How long have you lived in Medway?
Born and bred in Medway, 52, nearly 53 years. Originally born in Ordnance Street in the Masonettes that are no longer there.
What's the best bits about living in Medway?
Our history. Both my late dad and my late father-in-law both worked in the dockyard. I live over the road from the dockyard and I see when they're filming. We are the historical Medway towns, reaching far and wide, and I absolutely love it. A lot of children today haven't really seen what Medway can hold for our history. A lot don't even realise that the table that's in the White House was originally made in Chatham. It's got to be our historical background. The people, as I said, I'm nearly 52, people have changed. Their thoughts of how life should be, it has completely changed, and it has affected everyone around here. The community where I grew up on a great big housing estate called White Road, and everyone knew everyone. You know, even though they weren't family, we called each other aunts and uncles. We looked out for each other. You know, you could knock on the door for sugar or anything like that. It's all gone. And Chatham's lost a lot of its sparkle, I'm afraid, over the years, ever since they closed the dockyard.
So what happened when they closed the dockyard? What changed so make it such a downturn?
Because thousands of people, not just from Medway itself, but from outside, you know, Sheerness, Laysdown, they were bussed in and they worked in the dockyard. The dockyard was closed because of Margaret Thatcher, because the riverbed was too high and they were having trouble getting the boats in and out. So she made the decision to close it. 40, 50,000, if not more, lost their jobs. That sort of signalled the death knell for the Medway towns. I can remember as a child going down the town shopping with my mum on a Saturday, and the shops were so devised. You know, it was packed. It was absolutely packed, especially coming up to Christmas. You couldn't move. There was no breathing space. But when the dockyard closed, you know, people were out of work. Money got tight for people. You saw the high street dwindle. You saw the negative impact that it had on people, making them feel low, trying to go out and find a job, especially if you'd been in the dockyard for X amount of years, like my father had been. Having to start anew, you know. Having to start anew to go out and find a job, you know, it's hard trying to find a job now. But back then, you know, for what they had done, if they'd been in there from an apprentice, trying to find a job in that field was getting harder and harder. So, unfortunately, watching Medway die is what I've done.
Have you seen any change, any signs of improvement yet?
Honest opinion?
It's been 40 years, isn't it, since the dockyard?
Honest opinion, what I've seen is Medway, the high street has just died. You go down there and you've got charity shops and you've got vape shops and you've got fruit and veg shops and that. It's not as diverse as it was. I could go down there, you had different kinds of shoe shops and clothes shops and, you know, everything was there. You know, just walking down the road 5-10 minutes later or catching a bus, it's all gone. You've got shops sitting there vacant. It's not like it was. We were bustling once. You'd see the army chaps down there, the navy chaps when they were home on leave, and it died. And it's never regained the power that it once had.
If you had the power to change things, make improvements, what would you do?
First of all, would stop building on our green spaces. Stop overloading everywhere with flats. Concentrate on the houses that are sitting there empty, bring them up to scratch to help people get off the streets or get off the waiting list and to get a place to live. The rubbish around here, you know, you go down some roads and the rubbish that's been dumped, and we're, you know, fridge freezers and this, that and everything else that are sitting there for days and weeks on end that aren't being collected. Our infrastructure, as the lady said previously, is overloaded. We had 3, 4, 5 hospitals at one point. We are now down to 1. Doctors, you know, not seeing patients, or there not being that many doctors, surgery, dentistry. If you're going to build the flats or the houses, make these massive estates, you've got to have the infrastructure there. Schools, oversubscribed schools, you know, there's no places. I have 2 children that I have had to fight for because they are autistic, and they wanted them in mainstream school, and I kept them in mainstream school, but they were not helped in any way, shape or form. They are now building, finally, a new school designed for people, children with that are not neurotypical, ADHD, ASD, autism spectrum, out near Gillingham, out past Gillingham, Twiddleway. About time. A lot of children that are not neurotypical, like my 2 children, cannot cope. You put them in a mainstream school, you have to fight to get them the help that they need, and you go to the council, and it's like out of sight, out of mind. If you want a child that is not neurotypical to succeed in this life, you've got to start with their education first. You need more schools, more dentists, walk-in centres, health centres. You need everything, but that is what Medway is lacking.
So what are your hopes or fears for your children?
My fears is people not accepting them, especially my 2 children that are autistic, being bullied, being picked on because they look at children with autism as weird, as freaks, and this, that and everything else. To be accepted into society, to be able to be given the chance to be a productive member of society, getting a job, you know. My children, I've had one that went to art college, and in the end, when they closed it over in Rochester, she ended up going down to Canterbury, and they didn't listen to her. They put her on another course that she didn't want to do, and in the end she had to drop out because her anxiety was so bad due to her autism, she just couldn't cope. I fear that those nowadays that are in university, when they leave, they work hard at university to get their degrees, and they're coming out, but the jobs that they've gone for aren't there. How can people be a productive member of society, pay their bills, pay their way, when they've gone through all these years of university, college, they've been left with substantial debt, but the jobs aren't there? And I fear for that for my children. I fear for them not being able to get somewhere to live. There's just a lot of fear that's there, and as a parent, you're trying your best to relay their fears, you know, to rest, saying, oh, hopefully it'll change, and then you're seeing everything in the paper and on the TV, and you're right back where you are again. So I'm scared for my children's future, what it's going to hold. My children are scared for their future, what it's going to hold. So where do we go from here if no one wants to listen and help make that change?
I want to end on an high note. So, what's the thing you're proud of about Medway?
What can I say proud of? I'll be honest with you, though Medway has got its downsides, I've always been proud to come from Medway. I used to go away to school, and I used to come home every 3 weekends, and I would purposely look at coming down the motorway with my escort. As soon as he said Kent, I knew I was home. This is my home. It has got its bad points, it's got its low points, it's got its high points, it's got every kind of point that you can make imaginable to look at, to feel, to see. But Kent is home. It's beautiful. It is diverse. even though that sometimes diversity can be looked at in a bad light. And it does sometimes bring its bad ways with it. But if you're not diverse in moving forward, if you just still stay in the past, oh, Kent was, Chatham was great like this in the 1950s and the 1960s. We are in 2025. Things are moving forward. You cannot be stagnant. It's great to look back at the past at how Medway was, and how Kent was. But we need to change going forward. Yes, we need new housing. Yes, we need infrastructure. But Kent is my home. If we can work on those and maybe change some of the ideals of the way that the kids look today, this, that and everything else, that, being an influencer or closing yourself off, being hid behind your phone. I said to my husband the other day, I'm 52 years old. Why did I not see the beauty and in the nature and everything that surrounds me when I was a child? Why has it taken me till I'm in my late 40s and early 50s to see the beauty that is all around us, whether it be in someone's garden or old buildings or 1960s architecture or 1920s architecture, to see that it's there? Don't hide behind that phone. Don't hide behind that screen. Go out, see Medway, see Kent, look at its history, look at its people. I'm a carer. I've been doing care work for nearly 5 years. When I was doing community care out there when COVID was going on, I was talking to my residents, my clients, about their history. One lady who's no longer with us, I found out that she used to race cars around Donington Park. She was a qualified pilot. Her and her husband, in a plane, she'd fly over to France for the weekend and they'd come back. Our history is not just outside, it's in us. And we must teach it forward to see the younger generation of our history and the beauty of Medway, of the whole of Kent, is still there to pass it on.
We should have that female pilot in the film, shouldn't we?
She passed away. As I said, I went back to doing community care. And I was going into people's houses, fully PPE'd, everything, getting them up, washed, dressed, medication, cooking for them. Some people I was doing their calls 2-3 times a day. I was going to places like Sittingbourne, Gillingham, Rainham, Rochester, Strood, everywhere. And then I left there and I ended up working in a residential care home for 2.5 years, until I walked out of there in October last year because things just got too much. I've not long started a new job, and I'm looking after 2 people with intellectual disabilities in a home, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I've always cared for people. It's my biggest downfall. I've given so many people so many chances, and every time I've been hurt. And my late father said to me, Carla, well, not to me, but to my husband, he said, Carla's got a big mouth, which I put my hand up to, but she's got a big heart. Because I always care. If you do not care, if people slip under the radar, you've got to show that you're there, that you're going to listen, that you care, even if you're tired, even if you don't want to. Because that's the difference of someone realising, well, they care, I can go to them, I can have a chat, or them walking away and standing in the dark place that eventually takes their lives. I've lost people to suicide.
Remember I said I want to end on an high note?
Yeah. So, pass it on. Pass it forward. Do something little for someone. Even if it means paying someone's bus fare when they're on the bus in front of you because they haven't got the correct change or the bus driver hasn't. Pay it forward, a smile, open the door, even if the person doesn't want to say thank you. Every little thing counts and every little thing matters. Make someone smile today.
What's your favourite place in Medway or Chatham?
Rochester Castle, even though I won't go up it because I don't like heights, says the lady that lives on a second floor masonette. But yeah, Rochester, absolutely steeped in history, and I love just walking along it. As I said to my husband, I would love to be able to put my hands on the walls, if walls could talk, with the stories they could tell, and I would quite happily sit there with a cup of tea and listen all day, every day, to what went on, what these buildings have seen, what they've experienced.
That's the soundbite we're going to end on. Classic.
You sound like a partridge. That's brilliant.